Today I'm going to share with you how I would build some of the fastest Hemis around. Welcome back to another episode of Mod Stars. I'm your host Z. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And this is episode 11 of the Mopar Wars. That's just me addressing all the Mopar on Mopar hate I've seen over the last 3 years, and it's still very weird to me. At the top of this mentality ladder, people think if it's not a Hellcat or a Trackhawk, then the car's garbage. At the bottom of the ladder, people think if it's not at least a Hemi, like you have the V6, and that's garbage. And that couldn't be any further from the truth. But today, as promised in episode 10, I'm going to share with you how I would build the 5.7 and the 6.1 Hemis. And for anybody who would like a parts list, as always, just ask me for it. The only thing I need from you is the make, year, and model of the car, power goals, engine, and transmission, and budget. If you don't have a budget, that's fine. Just give me your power goals, and that'll kind of determine what the budget is. That being said, my explanation during this video is strictly theoretical and based on my knowledge and experiences, even from results that I've seen of certain builds to motorsport events, things of that nature. So let's get into it. My vehicle choice would be like a 06 Charger or a Chrysler 300 because they're cheap and I like sleepers. And that's really how this channel got started, was sleeper series. Check that out if you haven't. If I had a little bit more money to give towards a vehicle, it would be a Chrysler 300 SRT8 or the Challenger SRT8 because it has a manual transmission option. It's just something different. For a twin turbo approach, the Hellion twin turbo kit specifically, I would build the 5.7 and keep the factory displacement, or the 6.1 and keep the factory displacement. Now for a supercharged approach for this era, it would be either the Ken Bell ProCharger or Vortec, and for, of course, the more modern 5.7s, that would be a Whipple. But that would be the largest motors for the supercharged approach. And think of this, like the 5.7 and 6.1 displacements, for example, as a small glass cup, a 1-cup glass, and the 396 and the 426 stroke motors as a 2-cup glass. Now using a 12-ounce or even a 16-ounce bottle of water, which glass fills up quicker? The smaller glass or the larger glass? And which glass would be more filled with water? The larger glass or the smaller glass? Pause the video here and just comment your answers below, and we'll get into it a little bit. So the answer to both those questions is a smaller glass. And you might be thinking, well, if I had a larger bottle or even like a jug of water, can't I just fill the larger glass and do it at the same rate? It's like, yeah, you're on track to think what a lot of people think. But is that efficient? You have to take a jug of water or something bigger than the cup that you're filling itself to fill it just as quick as a smaller thing. So another simple example, which is more easy to move in and out of or fill with things of 400 square foot home or room, or 300 square foot home or room, depending on where you live in the world, right? Let's take the human heart, for example. Like an engine, it's a pump. And a healthy heart is an efficient heart that can work at a lot of different levels of output. One that can pump fluids at higher rates when needed and has a low operating rate, which overall is why it's important for us to have low resting heart rates, because it's a healthy thing to do or to have. Now, in the case of an enlarged heart, be it for a sedentary person or even an athlete, which in this case would be the stroke motor, on paper, it can handle larger amounts of fluids. It can move more throughout the system, but it doesn't have the energy to work at the same rate as a standard heart, which means that it can't. And their operating ability is actually lower than the standard heart is. So if it tries to match the capabilities of the more efficient thing, it's more likely to fail, and it will fail sooner than the standard heart. So to put simply, the bigger cup or the enlarged heart, the stroked motor, when you drastically increase displacement on what I've seen on a lot of American muscle V8s, their power band is lower and provides even more torque than what they already did. And superchargers, especially twin screw style superchargers like the Ken Bell and the Whipple, are designed for that low and instant torque response, which is why they do it. And the Pro Charger and Vortec, the centrifugal style superchargers, provide the best of both worlds. And they try to maximize that response and broaden the power band within those parameters. Now, going back to the twin turbo approach, yes, there are 426 twin turbo Hemis out there, but based on what I just explained, that's why I've said in previous videos, the popular thing may not deliver the best results. Even with the supporting mods mentioned in previous episodes, it seems like the standard displacement motors get into power quicker and hold peak power better or sooner than the larger displacement engines do, simply because there's less room to fill. And this is just a basic understanding. Everything has its limits, even things that are built for racing. There's a balance and method to do everything, right? So you can easily say, just increase the boost on the supercharger, even for the smaller displacement motor or the stroke motor. Yeah, you can do that. But how long will that supercharger last at those boost levels? That's why you'll see higher horsepower supercharged engines, and they have larger supercharger units. Like, you don't have a standard 3-liter Whipple anymore. After a certain point, you go up to a 3.4 or 4.2. For the Pro Chargers, you have an F1A unit that's rated for 900 to 1,000 horsepower. And that's so it can handle that boost. But then again, you might be more prone to belts breaking. It really depends. There are more limits on superchargers by design than turbos. And it's not to say that superchargers aren't worth doing and they're not good. Just understand what you're getting into and the goals that you have. So, again, if you can reach a certain goal with less energy output, so to speak, that's why you see large displacement engines, stroked motor engines specifically with the Hemis that make 700 plus, 800 plus on higher octane fuel have standard, as in low boost, or moderately higher boost settings on supercharger setups. Now, moving into motorsport examples, there's a shop in a car that won't be named, and they didn't do anything wrong. I just don't want anybody to think I'm putting them down. This was a few years ago, and yes, the videos are on 1320 Videos YouTube channel if you want to try to go down a rabbit hole and find them. It was a GTR class specifically, and this car was fast. It made it into the semifinals, if not the finals. But on their last run, they blew up the passenger side of the turbo. The passenger side turbo. And once the camera crew got to the pits to talk to the shop, they're like, what happened? Like, passenger side turbo just literally blew up. It shredded out, it flew out. You could see it in the video. So we're going to fix it, add more power, and go to Florida. And as soon as I heard that, I immediately thought, why are you going to add more power if you blew up on less? So why are you trying to do more without solving the problem? That's the equivalent of a doctor saying, oh, looks like you need stitches, but here, use a Band-Aid. What do you mean? Right? So I understand race schedules are crazy. And especially when it's competitive, you want to just send it and win, right? But this has happened to you before. So second time's a charm. So you spend less time and money trying to compete with, as you heard me say before, a built-in excuse or a reason to why something fails. So guess what happened when they went to Florida? The exact same thing that happened in Texas, the exact same way. And to give you guys context, I believe that the class they're running in restricts the turbo size. But, they can use this again. It's like having a failed artery or a bad valve of your heart. It's kind of a fail-safe thing versus the big catastrophe, which would be a blown motor or a heart attack in this case. Kind of hard to come back from, right? So if possible, I would at least lower the boost pressure to make sure the car survived the entire event. And if I were to go to that event or another event, I would use it as a test bed to see what's our max effort without damage, and can we achieve the same goal with less? And that's going to be part 2 of this video. So stay tuned for that. Let me know what you guys think. Again, if you want a parts list, just ask me for it and give me the year, make, and model of your car, engine, power goals, budget. Like, subscribe, and share. If you don't know, now you know, but do what you want to do.